Welcome to the Millionaire Mindcast, where we broadcast weekly interviews with millionaire minds from across the globe to empower you on your journey of unlocking a rich and fulfilling life. It's time to unleash your millionaire within. Now, here's your host, Maddie A.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Millionaire Mindcast, a show that focuses on all things mindset, money, and motivation to help you increase your income, impact, and influence. As always, I'm your host, Maddie A. It's great to be here with you for another week's worth of amazing conversation around millionaires worth modeling after. And today, I got a little surprise for you. Don't just have one millionaire guest. We got two millionaire guests, two of my amazing friends, Brandy and Lance Salazar, founders of LegendaryCouples.com and Legendary Couples with Kids, where they focus and talk a lot about not only wellness in the entrepreneurship space, but more importantly, wellness in your interpersonal relationships with your spouse, with yourself, and with your kids. Now, you might be wondering, well, how does this really apply to maybe the wealth building space? And what we talk about as wealth goes far beyond dollars, right? You could be wealthy in your bank account, but bankrupt in your personal relationships. So we really dove into an amazing conversation today with Brandy and Lance that I think you're really going to enjoy. We talk about the number one skill that they feel is most crucial to taking your relationships to that next level and really going deep in your relationships with whoever it may be, whether that's in the family space or in the professional space. We also talk about when they went through some struggles in their personal relationship, actually talked about divorce, how they were able to turn that corner and the evolution of a relationship and really the requirements of the individual to show up in the best way possible in order for those relationships to go deeper and really go to that next level. And they talked about sharing some of the experiments that they tried in their relationship, whether that was date nights or activities or challenges. And there's one in there particular that I know you're going to like, as well as they talk about social media and how Facebook now is a completely different variable in our interpersonal relationships that not many people had to take into account before. And so instead of relationships being hindered by social media, they talk about how you can elevate your relationships with social media. And they share a couple free resources for you, so we'll be sure to have those in the show notes. But just a fun conversation in general, all around, something that you can benefit from, most importantly in your personal life, so you can show up as a better byproduct in your professional lives and on your wealth building journey. So today, let's go ahead and dive in. If you haven't subscribed for all of the updates and content that we're putting out each and every week, be sure to hit the subscribe button below, leave a like on the video, drop a comment for us, or if you want those sent directly to your email, all you got to do is text the word millionaire to 44222. So with that being said, let's not waste any more time. Let's dive into today's episode with Brandy and Lance Salazar. Welcome back to the Millionaire Mindcast. I got two amazing guests, Brandy and Lance Salazar. What's going on, guys?
Hi, Maddie.
Hi, Maddie. Hey.
Two of my favorite people on this planet, and I get to finally interview you guys.
Yeah, we love you.
How are you guys doing today?
Doing great.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Rainy.
It is a little rainy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's still sunshine going on in our world. So I want to get everybody up to speed on what you guys are doing. And we have an amazing conversation today that I think a lot of people don't get enough of, or they at least kind of push off to the side and just go through the motions a lot, which is really your guys' brand is all about legendary couples with kids and just in general, a legendary relationship.
Yes.
And you guys have been extremely intentional about that. And you've got some great successes with it. You've had some amazing challenges with it, which you're going to share today. But for those that don't know who you guys are, who's Brandy and Lance?
Go for it. You go first.
We are married.
First and foremost.
We're still married. We are two working parents and who struggled to keep our relationship a priority. And as it fell apart, instead of letting it go, we decided to rebuild it and make it amazing, legendary.
You know, and Brandy and I are two incredibly different people, you know, that have joined and created something really beautiful. You know, our stories are different, and it's sort of like this intertwining and intersection of of two lives that were completely different, that had challenges and struggles to understand each other. And so in a lot of ways, you know, what we've built is really beautiful because we think that if two people like us can thrive together, then anybody can. So,
and you guys have a really, it's not an uncommon story, right? I think so many people can relate to this in the sense of there might be one entrepreneur in the relationship, there might be two entrepreneurs in the relationship, or there might be, you know, one individual who's in corporate, the other one's maybe staying at home. There's so many different dynamics when it comes to relationship. So we understand the context of your guys' situation. What was, you know, the, you know, relationship dynamic between the two of you guys, or what is, I guess?
Yeah, for the most of our relationship, I am an entrepreneur and Lance had a corporate job. I don't know if there's that much of a difference. I mean, I think that when you are an entrepreneur, you have a little more flexibility. You have more flexibility on what you do with your time and when. However, I think that it doesn't matter if you're a stay-at-home mom or a working mom sometimes, because the amount of work you have when you're a stay-at-home mom, when we work, we have leverage. We have someone that's with the kids or the kids are going to daycare. So
right.
I don't know if it makes a big difference, but that's our dynamic. And now we started this company together and we're both entrepreneurs this year.
Yeah, starting this year.
Yeah.
So what is Legendary Couples with Kids? Like, what is that brand and what does it stand for?
Well, the name of it comes from us. It comes from our own experiences. I mean, the word legendary is actually, we took that from a good friend of all of ours, Chris Lockhead, who uses the word legendary a lot. And I think it describes really, you know, the story that Brandy and I have been through, you know, is to strive for this legendary relationship that we have together. And we're still learning and growing. But what we learned is that once we had kids, the dynamic of our relationship drastically changed. For the two of us, you know, having children was the single most life-altering experience. Truth be told, getting married for the two of us really didn't change our relationship that much. But when the kids came along, that's when I think a lot of the differences between the two of us really got the exclamation point and were really sort of highlighted and going, whoa, you know, there are some things that, you know, we each need to work on or that we don't like about, you know,
each other.
There was a lot of,
yeah, right.
You know, and we had to get our minds right individually as people. And so this brand really is constructed from our story. You know, in fact, building the brand and building this business has been a huge learning lesson just for our relationship in general. In fact, I've told friends, I said, if we believe it'll work out. But if for some reason it doesn't, the beauty of it is that we've grown our relationship so tightly that, you know, it's indestructible now. You know, just maybe trying to go into business together. Holy crap! I mean, it was
right, and I would say that's the next biggest turning point in our relationship after kids. But to answer your question on what is Legendary Couples with Kids, it's a community. It is tools and resources to reconnect and maintain connection in your relationship after kids, date nights, overnight packages, being really intentional about what you're doing with that time to reconnect one of the four pillars of your relationship, and a mastermind community.
I love it. People who are looking to be intentional, obviously, about their relationship, how they're showing up for themselves, their partners, their families. And I just love what you guys are doing. Because I feel like it is kind of a missing conversation in a lot of spaces of business and just life in general. And you guys are so transparent and authentic in how you share it. For someone who, let's break it down and kind of sink our teeth into the relationship aspect and the wholeness aspect of the individuals first, before you can be whole for, say, your kids or for your family or whatever it may be. Because there's a lot of people who listen who may not have kids, but they still are, you know, wondering how can they be more intentional in the relationship first? Or is it the relationship itself, or where does it start?
Starts with you. Yeah, you're first. And, you know, I think I mentioned this a second ago. It's, you know, a happy relationship starts with two happy people. When I look back at our struggles and when we got to a point of separation in our marriage, and we started to look at what the problems were. And at the end of the day, there were two unhappy people trying to have a happy relationship together. And the relationship kept being the problem,
Yeah.
Right. This relationship isn't working.
You're like, I'm really happy, but not when I'm around you right now.
Right. Well, but at the end of the day, like there wasn't a whole lot of happiness and fulfillment in a lot of the other areas of our lives. So that's where it starts is, it's just kind of, and the way we describe it is at the time when we decided to take it into a different direction and save our marriage and make it amazing, we put the marriage on the shelf and started with ourselves and then moved into our partnership.
I think one of the things a lot of people, and independently, when they look at their relationship that they get wrong, is that they believe that their partner is responsible for their happiness.
Right.
So there's a lot of like, well, if my spouse or my partner would change, then I would be happy. If they would only do this, then they would be happy. And you can't change your partner. You can't change anybody but yourself. So once you change yourself and get your mindset right, that's when the relationship itself, works on you. We read through this gentleman by the name of Corey Allen, Dr. Corey Allen, who does relationship work. He says that, you don't work on a marriage, the marriage works on you. And that just hit home with me because that's really what happens. Marriage or the relationship itself is a tool for your own personal growth. So when you hear a lot of people say that marriage is work, well, sort of the work on yourself is the work. And when you let it, the marriage becomes that vehicle for your own growth, so it's not something to be forced or manipulated.
Yeah.
So that's where I think a lot of people are missing the mark.
Yeah, that brings up a really good point because I feel like that's probably the most uncomfortable thing for a lot of people is it's easy to point the finger this way, but then when it comes to, well, how do I need to show up a little bit better? And I'm guilty of this. I know that my wife is going to be listening to this episode because she loves you. She loves you guys. And secondly, I think we've had our ups and downs and our challenges just like any relationship does.
We all have.
And, when I'm taking an audit of this myself right now, the places where we've made the biggest strides have been when I've taken ownership of my own crap. That's showing up. And the places that we've had some of the most turbulent times are when I'm in the blame game space.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, Maddie.
So how does somebody get into, where can we start and say, you know what, I want to take an audit of this. I feel like I want to take my relationship to the next level. Where should I myself start looking, or what should I start doing in order to take that next step of intentionality?
Well, I think you're going to get totally different stories from the two of us. And this is what's beautiful about it, because we have our own separate journeys. When we were, about to separate, Maddie, we both had our own demons and things to work on. And what was beautiful is that, as we were both simultaneously kind of working on those things, there came a point where we intersected. So I think that's a great question, but the answer is going to be different from person to person, because you've got to look inside yourself and find out, well, where is it that I'm unhappy? What is it I'm not doing that is, leading me to be depressed? Or I was depressed, and I had to come to terms with that depression and figure out for myself what was not working. And I think it was the same for Brandy, although they were different things.
Yes.
So it's hard to answer your question other than looking inside yourself and finding out.
Answer.
Yeah, finding out your deficiencies. For me, I could explain my story, but I would let my wife actually, if she has a good global answer, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's with your vision. What do you desire?
Yeah.
I think that's where you start. Is what do you want in your personal life? What do you want in your marriage? What do you want in your business? What do you want? And I think that so often we get trapped in this hamster wheel of life, and we forget to take a minute and say, what do I want? And begin to become the person that is ready for that life.
Yeah.
That's, I think, the bottom line. That's where you start. What do you desire? What is your vision for your life? What is your vision for your marriage? And so I think that that's really the pivotal point for us. Another mutual friend, there's a few mutual friends that are involved in our story. I was having coffee with Bev Steiner, and we were talking about launching Women's Go Abundance, and she was talking about how we should do it with couples. And I'm like, but wait a minute, I don't know if I'm going to be married. So so I don't know if I'm involved. And I remember getting done with that conversation and coming home to Lance and saying, okay, that relationship or that conversation just changed the way that I view our relationship. And not only are we not going to quit, but we're going to make this awesome. So what does awesome look like for us? And that was the beginning to this journey.
Yeah. So it's been a couple of years. And what I love too is we've looked at our relationship and our marriage as almost like a laboratory,
right?
Like an experiment, you know?
It is very scientific.
Right. Not just for us, but also for other people, because we've done a lot of various things. We're like, I don't know if that's going to work for us, but man, that might be really cool for other people. So, we've got this portfolio, if you want to call it that, of things that worked and things that didn't. We experimented and we got okay with that. We got really okay with saying, well, let's just play with this and see how this works out. Well, no, that sucked, but it's still a worthwhile, experiment. And so that's how we viewed our relationship for a while, was let's just have fun with this. Let's mess around and see where it goes and see what works and what doesn't. And so for 2 years, we've been doing that. So.
Well, I love the fact that both of you guys too, I think first and foremost decided to buy in, like no matter what, we're in this, right? We got this, which it's often, when the ego shows up in the relationship, it's very easy to choose the alternative route. Yeah. And I was thinking about this when we were on our GoBundance trip in Vietnam. We were having this, epic, talk about legendary conversation with, 20 guys in our Millionaire Mastermind group. We're hiking in to the world's third largest cave. So we're out in the middle of nowhere. You have nothing but time and space to just talk. And one of the guys very vulnerably shared the fact that he was thinking about getting a divorce. And this is real life conversation, right? These topics aren't anything to be ashamed of, but it was amazing that he put it out there. Wow. And the wisdom that flew around this conversation from different guys with different experiences and different perspectives for me was, and this was a month before I was getting married, was just, insane, right? And I remember one of the things that came up, you mentioned it actually a little bit earlier, Lance, was, sometimes we project how we want that individual to be in order for us to say, oh, that's going to make me happy. And one of the guys said, who's a friend, and you guys know him very well, had said, look, if you're going to make your relationship work, there's going to be things that drive you nuts. There's going to be things that make your skin crawl. But if you choose that individual, if you truly choose that person, the good, the bad, the ugly, you surrender to that relationship and you figure out how you can best show up. And I love the fact that you guys brought up this laboratory example, because you guys chose that, hey, we're going to be in this, we're going to make it work, and we're going to try and figure out what works the best. So going into this idea of maybe experimenting, having two people in the lab together, figuring out what works, what doesn't, what were some of the things that worked for you guys? What were some of the things that didn't?
Yeah. Okay. So you want to start with what does work and what didn't work?
And we're not talking about like the X-rated stuff that you guys are trying behind the scenes over here.
We can go into that a little bit too. But, I think it was a lot of just, okay, well, let's try, here's one that I actually really like that for one reason after a while got really old for us, but I think it's really great for people, who especially are disconnected. Was at Night Love when we would say, well, what's one thing you're grateful for the day? What's one thing, you did for me as a spouse? Sort of recognition and gratitude. Yeah. What's one thing I could do?
Or you noticed that you did.
Yeah. Or what's one thing I could have done better? And it was a beautiful experiment, but it didn't last terribly long for us. I think, we were already kind of in the practice of doing that. So it didn't create a huge habit for us.
But it's something that's remained. Yeah. So we do our mornings together at Miracle
This is
Morning.
A great one.
Yeah.
This is what does work.
Yeah. So one of the things that we had to figure out, like time. At the end of the day, what your relationship needs is time. Anything that you want to flourish in your life, that's the missing link.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, the grass is greener where you water it. All those sayings. And what we found was nighttime wasn't a very engaging time for us conversationally, unless you become really chatty.
I get chatty.
Sometimes he's really chatty, and I'm like, tired. Ready to wrap this up. So morning time became our time together. And so that is a time where we focus on those questions. Gratitude, huge. Gratitude is a important thing for any area of your life. Raises your vibration. It makes you more positive. And so when you can do that in your relationship on a regular basis and make note of where you're appreciative of each other, so that morning time. So finding the time is really important. Daily, finding time daily where you connect. And of course there's seasons, there's times where you have sick kids, or there's times where someone's out of town. And then, sometimes you need a bit of a reset to reconnect. And I would say that that's another thing that has been a really great tool for us, is now we realize that when you are in a season and you are out of routine of your connection time, it's going to take a little bit more time to reset. Let's just regroup. Let's check in. How are you? How am I? What does our relationship need right now to flourish? And making the relationship a priority.
Right.
Yeah.
Brandy touched on something. You reminded me when you were talking about priorities. I hear a lot of people say, well, these are my top 5 priorities, but this can't work. I can't create the time with my spouse because of the kids, or because of this, or because of that. And I think we need to get out of our heads where we say this can't work because, and say, well, no, wait, this is a priority, and this is how I'm going to make this work. So
how can it work?
Right. When Brandy up at 5:15 in the morning to have our time with our kids, we've made that a priority. We've said this is the time when our kids are sleeping, when we can be one-on-one, completely intentional and present with each other. And we decided that's when we were going to do it.
I love that.
Yeah, instead of saying, well, the kids wake up this,
it's easy to fall in a reactive state and come up with excuses all the time.
Totally. So you got to figure out, this is the priority, and this is how I'm going to make it work, no matter how challenging it might be and how uncomfortable it might be, because it's a priority.
Yep. It reminds me of a quote my old basketball coach used to say: excuses are like assholes. Everybody has them and they all stink.
Right.
That's so good.
Right.
But that goes back to the you part. And that's why the you is the foundation of this.
Yep.
And that's the kind of work that you have to get through on your own.
Yeah.
What excuses are you making for your life? And if you have 2 people making excuses, you're probably not going to find time for each other.
Yeah. And it reminds me too, I think of, based on my experiences and what I've seen with a lot of people who, either get divorced or leave their relationship, and it's the grass is always greener on the other side type mentality. My relationship's horrible. Unless you do the work on you, you're going to get to that same ceiling in another relationship that you just hit, that same roadblock. And until you do the work on you, you're never going to find a way to break through that or to get around that in your next relationship. I'm curious for you guys, what's your take or thoughts around divorce, especially with it being as high as it is today?
What are our thoughts on it?
Yeah.
That's
a tough one.
It's challenging. So, one of the things, I'm going to start with our story a little bit. When Brandy and I first decided not to separate and not to get a divorce, things were not good.
At all.
Right. And so one of the things, at least I had to practice, and I think we both did this, we called it putting the marriage on the shelf. Even though we were all in, we're like, let's take the pressure off of some of the more intimate pieces of the relationship and get ourselves right and see what happens. And so for me, that was the art of letting go or detaching from the outcome. I'm going to work on myself. And if through this process, my relationship with my wife is awesome, then fan-fucking-tastic, that's great. But I'm going to let go of the attachment that it will. Getting to a point of no more complacency. If we work on each other and we're not connected and this doesn't work, then it's time to let go. So I don't think Brandy and I, either one of us is against a divorce, so to speak, especially if those 2 individuals aren't meant to be together.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is you get a lot of couples that remain in these complacent relationships because there is fear of either working on the challenges, in order for them to get their relationship to a legendary level, or fear of rocking the boat and deciding that it's time to let go and move on with their lives. Mm-hmm. So that's my sort of, take on divorce. And it was letting go. It was because attachment, there's a Buddhist saying, a belief of attachment leads to suffering. So if you attach yourself to an outcome expecting that it's going to work out one way or the other, attaching to one or the other, then you're just going to suffer when it doesn't happen. So
it's the whole expectation hangover. I always, when it comes to like big goals in life, I've always had the philosophy, kind of Gary Keller style, have the end in mind. So I think a vision for what you desire is really important, but to partner that with non-attachment, to also have the belief or the faith that if you show up for your life will start to happen for you. And what happens when we attach to this, like, well, if this relationship doesn't work out, then my life is over. Or if this doesn't work out this specific way, it's, have that vision, have the end in mind, but then be showing up for that life and let it happen. So with divorce, I believe that the divorce rate is high because people aren't doing the work. But I do believe that people make choices to get into relationships that aren't healthy. Yeah. And, when you talk about things like abuse, any form of it, divorce is the best answer. And, especially when you have children and you're modeling this relationship that will then potentially become the relationship that they have in their lives. And that was a big one for me when we were about to call it quits. Is I kept thinking, we have these two young, impressionable, beautiful daughters that the world is their oyster, and we're showing them that complacency, irritation, and grumpiness is the way a marriage should be. This is your front row seat to marriage.
Yeah.
And that was one of the most disheartening things for me. So I thought to myself, I'm like, they would be better off if they had two healthy parents that either stayed single or went and found other partners that they were healthy and happy with, and that they had two better examples to model marriage after.
Yeah. I think there's a lot, I think a lot about how we do this for them too. We do. The mission in a lot of this is that our daughters are going to choose relationships, whether it's like a marriage type relationship or even their friendships, any of that. They're watching us. We are the model for that. And so what are we showing them, through that? What are we teaching them through how we navigate our marriage?
Right.
It's for them. And so at the end of the day, if they choose partners, that they are infinitely happy with and that they thrive and flourish with as well, then game over, we win.
Right. Yeah, that's what it's all about. And I think that there's another piece to that on the modeling that also has to do with that divorce question. And it's conflict happens. It doesn't matter if you're in a friendship, a marriage, a partnership in business, conflict happens. And conflict resolution is a skill that you can learn. And so as parents, we have an opportunity to, instead of going behind closed doors and resolving our conflict, we now choose to resolve our conflicts in front of our children. We actually had a moment of a month or so, maybe a couple months ago, where I got heated and I was raising my voice at Lance in front of my parents. Oh, no way, right?
Never
in front of my parents and my sister, and everybody's like, shh. It's okay. Just like basically go off. You don't have to do this in front of the kids. And I'm like, no, not only am I going to finish this in front of the children, but they're going to watch us solve it. We're going to talk it through. That's and we're going to solve it in front of everyone. You're all going to see this. Front row seat, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. He made me mad and hurt my feelings, and we're going to handle this. And so people also think sometimes that there isn't going to be conflict in a marriage. Expect it.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. We're two humans trying to coexist and take care of children and manage a household, deal with finances, all of these things that, problems, health, things.
Real life shit.
Yeah.
Real life. Yes. We're handling life together.
Yeah.
There's going to be conflict.
I'm going to caveat this though a little bit to say that, I think your relationship needs to be in a good space to really be able to fight and resolve in front of the kids. You can't, it's like the trick play in football. You can't just go out and say, I'm going to do a fake punt, unless you go and practice that, and practice before you implement that in the game.
Right.
You can't just, let's do a fake punt. Hey, coach, we haven't practiced that.
Let's have a blow up and let's resolve it in front of everybody. We got this
right now. I hate you anyway, so let's go fight in front of everybody.
Yeah.
So you can't do that.
No, that's a good point. And I love that you talked about it though, that conflict resolution in general, whether it's in your marriage, with a boss at work, or with an employee, with a friend, whatever it is, that's a skill. And it takes time to develop. Really, I think of what is the foundation of that skill. Well, it goes back to communication.
Amen.
Yep.
And
that's the foundation of all of this.
And when I was, when I read the 5 love languages, and Marie and I did this together. And if you haven't read this book, I know you guys are big on this book as well. Yeah. If you haven't read the 5 love languages, it talks about the 5 different ways individuals give and receive love. And I realized that my way of receiving love and how I, like it is through physical touch and acts of service. And so I was trying to love Marie in that way. And she was like, whoa, dude, like mine's quality time and words of affirmation, and you're doing neither of these. So there's something missing here, right? I'm curious, what is your guys' love languages? And were you guys always loving each other that way, or has there been some evolution in that process?
That's such a good question on the evolution part.
You've talked about this too, because you've got a great answer for this.
Mine changed. So mine was physical touch, pretty strong physical touch when we were first together. And through the evolution of our relationship and
like having kids.
Just the seasons, life changes. And I think love languages change. And so not that physical touch isn't still important to me, but what was the one you just said mine is now?
It's quality time, I think. Right, isn't it now?
No, it's
this is great. Just changing again on me, Maddie. This is why I stayed married to her. It keeps me on my toes.
Yeah, I love it. So we got gifts,
words of affirmation. You've got
words of affirmation, gifts, acts of service.
It's acts of service. So, like, I'll give you an example. Coffee in the morning. He makes coffee in the morning and makes it amazing. And he, like this morning, brought it to me in bed because I had a rough night last night, and brought it to me in bed and.
Winner.
All cylinders for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ding, ding.
Ding, ding, ding. This is amazing. And so just the appreciation now of things that he does, little things that he does to take care of our world is huge for me, and it fills me up. So I also believe that we all have a little bit of all of the love languages.
Yeah.
But there is a main one. There is. And, the analogy I love to use with the 5 love languages for people who haven't read the book or haven't been exposed to that theory or concept in the relationship is that of 2 people who speak 2 different languages, right? If one person speaks only English and one speaks only, let's say German, the one speaking English is trying to communicate with the one that only speaks German by speaking English, and vice versa. And the one speaking German and they don't understand each other. So the one speaking English has to learn some German, and the one speaking German has to learn some English. And then boom, hey, we can talk to each other, So,
that's such a great analogy, though.
Yeah, but it's true.
Because oftentimes in our relationship, it's almost like, do you understand the words am I communicating correctly? Yeah, but it's true.
You'll speak your own love language thinking that that's what your spouse receives, if you're only speaking English.
You keep doing acts of service, and I just want to hang out with you.
Yes.
I just want to sit on the couch and snuggle. That's what I want to do. And you keep,
it's such a great activity and exercise to go through for all those that are listening right now. If you want to take that quiz to do it with your partner, I highly recommend it. It was a game changer for Marie and I. We'll be sure to link that up in the show notes below. I want to talk about something that I know you guys are very just open with and being transparent with is what is your guys' feelings on the importance of intimacy and making that a focus of your relationship, or it not necessarily having to be, because a lot of people really base their relationship off of the physical connection, right? And you guys have taken it like 20 layers deeper than that, but you also talked about that being one of your leading, love languages starting out was intimacy. You guys had an amazing physical connection. How do people take it past that and not make the relationship all about intimacy?
Yeah, this is great. That's a good question, Maddie. And I'm going to start it off and let Brandy expand on it because she kind of came up with this. So we have 4 relationship aspects that is part of our philosophy, and that's the you, the self that we've talked a lot about, the partnership, which is sort of the business piece of the relationship, the finances, the keeping the house, keeping the kids alive, that kind of stuff. The friendship is the part where it's like, your buddies, your friends, you're having fun together. There's joy, there's experiences, there's the venting and the shoulder to cry on stuff, the things that you picture with your best friend. And then there's what we call the lovers aspect. And that's the true intimacy. And that is the part where you guys are sharing things with each other you do not share with other people. It's the pure, if you want to, I don't want to call it secretive because we are an open book, but that it is the stuff that we telepathically even some ways send to each other because we know each other so well and understand each other so well, and where we're truly really vulnerable with each other. And getting back to what the point of this is that true intimate total lovers connection there, I don't think happens really effectively until all of those other pieces are built. The you, the partnership, the friendship, and then that. If you base it on that top little piece, your foundation is not strong.
Right.
You is not strong. Your friendship and partnership are not strengthened. They're not maximized. And so when you're at the pinnacle of that lover's piece and you're basing your relationship on that, man, you're dangling by a thread. And that's my view of it. So
obviously I agree completely. And I also think that the level of intimacy that you experience as lovers cannot be compared to how it starts. And I think that's where a lot of us, we get caught up, where it's this euphoric passion, rip your clothes off, that this is amazing.
Right.
Going to be like this forever.
Yeah.
It's new. It's
right.
like something
it's new.
new.
There's a chemical that's released in our bodies in the beginning of a relationship that diminishes over time. And what begins to happen if you put the time in to truly having a partnership that you can stand on, and you're not worried about who's paying the bills and are the kids alive and things like that. And then you truly become friends and like a deep knowing of each other. And that intimacy piece is far better than what you experienced in the beginning. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it's hard to explain it to people because what we're always yearning for is that exact same thing. And that thing that happened in the beginning, although there are nights that can be like that or moments that can be like that again. But I forget who said it, but I heard this line once and she said, whatever happened to 2 people just loving each other? And I'm like, right. That's really what the intimacy is.
Yeah.
It's 2 people deeply loving each other and taking the expectation of what this moment should be out of it. Another thing I will touch on with this is when it is stagnant in a relationship, we do feel that it is a very important piece. It's, it's the piece that we get to share with each other that you don't share with anyone else. And it's a very important piece. But in the beginning, when you're struggling to get there for consistency, put it on the calendar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Motion begots motion thing.
Yep.
So get into action and start doing it. And once you start, you're not going to be sad that you did.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Man, I'm so bummed that we did that.
Yeah. Said no one ever.
Said no one ever. Right.
It's challenging. Sometimes like
Right.
runners, I used to run a lot. Sometimes like getting out the door was the hardest part. But when I came back from a run, I'm like, man, I'm really glad I did that.
Yeah.
So, like,
That's
being
same.
intimate with your partner, it's like, man, that really sucked. No, you're glad you did it. You got into action and you shared a moment
Yep.
together.
And the more you practice, the better it becomes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm all about the practice. I really like the fact that you guys talked about to, you, partnership, friendship, lovers, and how almost a lot of people have that completely flipped upside down. And essentially that positions you in your relationship without the strong foundation. And that was a great point that you brought up, Lance, of, when you have those things, it really allows you to take it to that next level in the intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It really is. It's better than what you experienced.
Right.
It's deep. It hits a place in your. It's magical. It hits a place in your soul that it wasn't capable of hitting in the beginning.
Yeah.
Very different.
I want to highlight something that I know you guys have really dove into as we kind of come up to the tail end of the interview is social media playing a big part in relationships nowadays. I mean, everybody's finding their lovers on Match and Tinder. And then, there's, once you find the person through, the world of internet, now it's really using social media in the relationship and how it can either be a good thing, it can be a bad thing. It hurts a lot of relationships. It helps a lot of relationships. What is your guys' take on the social media platforms out there and how they're coming into relationships now? Are they helping, hindering? What does that look like for you guys?
You want me to start with this one?
Sure.
Yeah, I think with social media, and let's talk specifically about Facebook, how you use Facebook is your choice. It's a tool. So when I read articles that say, Facebook is ruining marriages or Facebook is, causing disconnection, I'm going to call bullshit because, those are people choosing to allow Facebook to do that in their lives. It's so negative and all these political crap, it's flowing through my feed. I'm like,
unfollow.
You have complete control over that. You choose to see that, So, when people talk about divorces, when I guess there's a few statistics out there, but they're, when they're saying like 1/3 to 2/3 of divorce filings mention Facebook, and I'm not sure what the exact statistic is, but that's because those relations already had cracks in the armor, in my opinion, and Facebook just became a vehicle for them to explore those cracks and to widen them open, but how you use that social media is your choice. So I just don't buy into it. And so Brandy and I are believers in using things like Facebook and social media to actually help your relationship and to explore what's positive about that. So.
I love that. I want to actually dive into that then what are some of the ways you can use Facebook to enhance your relationship?
It's funny. We did an ebook on this topic because we think that it is so important.
Are we going to be able to get a copy of that and link it up?
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome.
We can link it up. It's one of those things that in people we talk to and coaching clients that I'm telling you, it comes up in every single conversation. So-and-so's on Facebook too much. So-and-so posted this on Facebook and it upset me. So-and-so this, so-and-so that. And number one, that's a communication issue. Have the conversation. What does Facebook look like for our family? What are the boundaries that we have on the times that we're on Facebook? Because the most important relationship or the most important person is the one sitting right in front of you.
Yeah.
So there are definitely some guidelines to be aware of. The excess time on Facebook or the time you're choosing to be on it. You're sitting in front of your kid and now you have the phone in front of. We all know that's not a good idea, right? But the things that it can be is we all need a sense of community. And what is so beautiful about Facebook is in this hustle and bustle that we now call life of busyness, that we get to stay connected to people that we care about. And we get to maintain a certain level of a sense of community through Facebook. And if used wisely and have your feeds cleaned up and have the groups that you're part of think about the Facebook groups out there now. I mean, like the one that you have on Six Figure Flipper is an amazing group of people that are lifting each other up and helping each other be better investors. Great. You guys have another one that's a dad's group. Let's be better dads together. Why is that bad?
Right.
It's a great thing. Sometimes we've been limited in community by our geography, and we are no longer limited by that anymore.
Yeah.
And so I've made some great friends through dad's groups on the East Coast, people I would not have met otherwise, and so it connects us in that way through community in a way we never had before. I mean, and it's a great thing for men. I think men have I think there's a season that's changing, but men have had a hard time being vulnerable with each other as men and opening up as men. And I think, sometimes being limited by our geography, it's been challenging to find guys who are like-minded in that way. And social media and the internet and Facebook and all of these places allow us to do that. Facebook.
It's really Facebook.
It allows us to do that. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So
I couldn't agree more. The ability to connect with like-minded individuals where, essentially proximity does not necessarily require you to be in the same city or same town or neighborhood. We've connected with so many amazing people around the country and the world now because of Facebook. So I like the fact that you guys just go back and point out, and highlight that it's all up to choice, right? By being intentional, you can choose what, pond you want to fish in to get your, knowledge and resources and tools, and just be intentional about who you're learning from and the people that you want to model after and surround yourself with, which you guys have created something pretty spectacular here. And I'm excited to see how this just changes so many people's lives, families, relationships. For those that want to stay connected with where you guys are at, and anybody that's listening right now, I will have the link to Brandy and Lance's ebook, so you guys can download that for free. But if they want to know more about your course, they want to know more about your community, how can they go? Where can they find you at?
legendarycouples.com or Legendary Couples on Facebook or Instagram.
Awesome. Yeah. And if we're going to leave our listeners with one tip or piece of advice, we always talk about not just being a millionaire in your bank account, but being a millionaire in all of the categories of life that really mean something to you. For someone who wants to have that $1 million and beyond marriage or relationship, what would you leave them with today?
I got a good one.
You go then.
And you have one?
Yeah, I go.
Your relationship deserves to be a priority.
Yeah.
What's yours?
If you had a microphone right now, you would have dropped it, wouldn't you?
I don't know if I can top that, because that's it's about priorities. I would have to agree with her on that. But and also, like, for me, going back to the beginning, is for those that are in relationships that are not firing on all cylinders, are complacent, or even at a point where you're talking about calling it quits. Is that it starts with you. Yeah. It starts with you taking inventory and investigation of your own happiness and creating it, for yourself, and then sharing that, with your spouse or your partner. They deserve the best you to show up. They deserve that. Yeah. It's so that's where it starts.
You guys are two of my favorite human beings on the planet. You guys have been mentors to me in many aspects of life. So I can honestly say that I love you both. And you guys have added a lot of great wisdom and knowledge into our community today. And I'm super pumped to see how many people you guys have impact along the way. So we will be sure to post up all of the links, all of the information to get more connected with Brandy and Lance. And until next time, we'll see you guys soon.
Thank you for having us, bud.
Thank you, Maddie.
Cheers.
We love you.
Okay.
Well, that does it for this week's interview with Brandy and Lance Salazar, two amazing millionaires worth modeling after. And what I appreciated about this interview was the fact that they were just so real and raw and genuine, and that they actually pulled the curtain back to their relationship, particularly in their marriage, and shared some of the challenges and the failures, because that's what's relatable, right? I always want to hear about people's wins and successes, but first and foremost, I'm always interested in where people, hit sticking points and how they get through them. And the reminder that, a happy relationship, whether that's with your spouse, your kids, your employees, your boss, whoever it may be, a happy relationship starts with two happy people. And one of those happy people has to be you, or it has to be me. And so I think it's easy to get caught up in any relationship to seek fulfillment and happiness from the individual. And it's their job and their responsibility to show up in the right way that fulfills us, right? And the reminder was that it starts with us. We need to seek fulfillment and happiness and wholeness here first before we can go out and get it out there. And when we talked about the 5 love languages, just an awesome, reminder and conversation around the fact that the way you show up in your relationships and the way you love and express emotion and caring isn't always the way that is best for other individuals. And so when we can just be more aware around the fact that there are many ways of receiving and giving love, we can show up best in that relationship. Also, like the fact that we dove into Facebook and social media, being in the world we live in today, it's everywhere. We engage with it on a daily basis, and oftentimes people use it as an excuse to be a hindrance, or that it's, a negative thing. And Brandy and Lance kind of flipped the script on us and said, you know what? You can use Facebook or whatever social media platforms you like engaging with as a way to connect and enhance your relationships instead of hinder them. So just a fun overall topic of conversation today. How we show up in our relationships allows us to take things to the next level in our personal lives, and by doing that, we can show up better in the professional space. So not just being wealthy financially, but also being wealthy in your relationships and other areas of life that give you overall fulfillment and happiness. So if you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up. Leave a comment below. If you want this content, not in video format, sent to you each and every week in your inbox, email style, all you got to do is text the word millionaire to 44222, and you will get all the millionaire insights from our show, our guests, and the YouTube channel sent to you each and every week. Until next time, keep investing in yourself and your wealth on your march to $1 million and beyond. Cheers, my friends.